Welcome into this Five Clubs conversation. I'm Gary Williams. Very much looking forward to having the conversation I'm going to have in a moment with a guy who saw success in the game at the highest level right away. And then what happened? I'm not exactly sure. And I'm not sure he exactly knows even to this day. He's 30 now. And in 2015, he won in the fall. And then in 2016, found himself in the last group on a Sunday at the first major of the year, and that was the Masters. And he shot 81. And after that, he had very little success, not just not winning, not making cuts. And now he's trying to figure out, can I still play this game? I'm talking about Smylie Kaufman. And for 3 years, he was mired in one of the great slumps you'll ever see for someone who actually won on the PGA Tour. But he started doing some media. He contributed at the PGA Championship, then at the U.S. Open, and more recently at the U.S. Junior Amateur out at Bandon Dunes. And he's talking now about his own journey and where that journey is going to next. But how did he get to where he is now? And how do you get that lost? And how do you find yourself? Forget hitting good shots, like the crisis of confidence that comes with facing something that you might not be good again ever at. Well, he's willing to talk about it, and we're getting ready to do it right now. And with that, we welcome him in, Smylie Kaufman. My friend, how you feeling?
All good, my man. Just happy to join.
Well, listen,
thanks for having me on.
Of course, I appreciate you doing this. You know, it's early. Let's get you woken up. I'm going to start with a quiz. Do you remember the 6 guys you beat by a shot in Las Vegas?
Kevin Na had to be one.
Yes.
I feel like Alex Chaka maybe
Yes,
have been.
That's 2.
Was there really 6 of them?
Yes.
God, Cameron Chingali.
Yep.
Maybe Patton.
You're 4 for 4.
God, there's 2 more, huh? I don't remember that. Did Jimmy Walker sneak in there or no?
No. It was.
I think he was in the final group. Hold on, let me give you one more chance.
Okay.
I don't got it. I don't have it.
All right. Brett Stegmeyer.
Oh, that was an easy one. He was the last guy I had to wait on.
And Jason Bone.
Bone. God, he had a long putt. That's right. It was like 2 hours. It was hard to remember how many guys there were. I mean, we weren't even in. It was like T29. Next thing you know, we're somehow – I don't know how any of those guys didn't get to the finish line more than me. Like, it was just one of those posts and nobody was able to do anything.
I love stuff like that. I love whether it's like these, gangsome playoffs and just, having guys, how much they remember. I was actually impressed that you were 4 for 4. Let's start there because, when you turn pro and, you had success right away and then you win in the fall, did all of that seem normal to you? Did you feel rushed at all, or did you feel like it made complete sense?
Well, it did make sense after I won. I was like, what in the world? This wasn't supposed to happen this quickly. But I think for me, why I had so much success was we had just played such a long season on the web. I was, one of the best players on the web that year, was playing really good golf. And being able to kind of roll right into that fall season, playing well, knowing that the fields weren't like, I wasn't like looking around at anybody. It was like, oh, I can't beat this guy. It wasn't like the top fields in the fall. So had a top 10 at Napa. And that once you kind of get a big week, you just need to have one good week in the fall to make sure you're on the top of the reshuffle. So I just kind of was already playing with house money heading into Las Vegas, knowing I was going to be at kind of the top of my shuffle. So, which we're all as a web.com tour player at the time was all you're really thinking about. And, I was having a pretty decent week, hitting it really well, and then just found a hot putter on Sunday. And next thing you know, I'm hoisting the trophy.
The aftermath of that, I mean, you started 2016 well. I mean, you had a top 8 at the Cadillac Championship, which was a World Golf Championship. You finished 12th at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which was before the Masters. So everything beyond that, were you somebody who had a lot of thoughts, or were you somebody who had very little thought and was very instinctual and did most everything by intuition?
Probably the second route. I'd say that I didn't think as much. I was just trying to keep improving, keep working on my game, and I just kept surprising myself, I guess. But I just played my own game, and I felt like my game was good enough to be able to compete at the highest level. And week in, week out, I just felt like I kept getting better and better, and was kind of building towards Augusta. And that entire year was that whole spring I played really well, and just kind of felt like I was just kind of doing everything right. I wasn't doing anything too poorly. I was having top finishes and was qualifying for the majors, the U.S. Open, the Brit. I was able to qualify for the Open Championship after Doral, which was the last year they had Doral. But just was playing good golf.
You one of the things that I remember distinctly was, along with the other guys who were very good friends of yours, there was a comfort with attention. And I think sometimes, look, you can practice all you want. You can't simulate pressure or situations late in golf tournaments, but you prepare yourself as best you can. What you can't do is realize whether you're comfortable doing media, getting attention, and not being distracted by it. And I felt like there was a comfort there for you with the attention that you were getting, along with Justin, along with Jordan. And is that true? I mean, were you comfortable with all that?
Well, I think it was all new, but I think my personality definitely made it easier to deal with media or attention. It was kind of our height of social media for the beginning of it.
Yep.
For golf was kind of around that time. And, when we went on our trips and this or that, it was kind of the big, like before, everybody had their second accounts. It was when everybody just had their own like Twitter accounts and where there was no,
and you actually did it. I mean, it was you guys. It was not a team of people.
Yeah. It was an authentic place. It was not like the people that were following on Twitter were actually them. It wasn't like their second fake account where they can just troll. There was no trolling back in 2016. It was just, genuine, a place where you put out content and people either enjoyed it or they didn't. And I felt like during that time, we were able to kind of be ourselves more. And that was perfect for me because my personality was able to come out kind of at the height of that social media. So when you talk about media, I was comfortable with golf media, but I also felt like I was able to kind of, create my brand along the way, which I think people are, it's still evolving now, obviously, but, during that time period, it was definitely fun.
No, it was, look, there were a couple things, and I've always been interested in the way that people choose to present themselves. And I thought with Polo, you were aligned perfectly. It fit you. I thought that from a stylish standpoint, everything was in line. And then you mentioned the Masters and being there that week. Jordan was such a big deal, and I was very immersed in what he was doing, considering what 2015 had been. What was most memorable for you about everything that led up into what you did on Saturday? Were there things that stand out?
Yeah, I don't really ever get annoyed by like media's predictions of things, but they had like a top 10 rookies that year on Golf Channel right before on Wednesday night. I'm sitting there watching, and I didn't make the top 10. I was like, what in the world are they watching? And I was just like so annoyed because I knew like I was going to be able to play well out there. The game or Augusta National fits my game perfect. It's kind of a big ballpark. I grew up on slopey, fast greens. You got to shape it both ways with the irons. I'm like, this place is perfect for me. And I didn't make the top 10 list. And I was just looked over my girlfriend at the time, wife now, is like, they're going to regret that. But obviously it was just no one in the TV business now was just a filler top 10 just some time filler. But that whole week going into it, it was just a magical week, and getting to play on Sunday with Jordan was so cool. I'll never forget playing the final group for Masters. It was so fun. But besides the golf, there's just nothing that went either of our way that day. So we soon to forgot about it, but definitely I'll never forget some of the things that happened that day.
Yeah, that day particularly, and respectfully, so much of the attention was on him looking to do something that was so rare, which was to go back to back. And the one thing about him that week, and following him every day, and I kept saying this on the air in the morning on Morning Drive from there, was that I felt like he was like a monkey dancing on razor blades. Like, he was hanging on, like he was like, it was classic him. It was like he was junk balling his way around, and to his great credit, like, he's doing it. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to get to the finish line doing this. But
it was crazy what he did on that front nine. I think he shot 2 or 3 under, and I felt like I out ball strike him, and he beat me by 6 on that side. I'm like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And then I think his ball striking from the week kind of finally caught up to him on the back nine. Just, he had that little right miss going, and he hit it right on 10 and 11, and then 12 he had the same miss to the right. So it just was a kind of just fighting a little bit of a right miss that day.
So you have a day that historically there have been players who've been in the position that you've been, but you've pointed out since then that there was something going on with you, with whether it was your right wrist or something which subsequently, I don't know if it worked its way into your forearm and into your elbow. Was that something that was persistent, that existed before the week even began?
It started on like Saturday or Sunday at Augusta, just kind of right at the base left side of my right wrist, kind of right at impact, kind of, so you know how your right wrist is set at impact, and it's basically right at the that little gap in that left side, and it just started kind of cranking up at Augusta. And 2 weeks later, I remember it hurting at spring break trip down at Baker's. I was like, this is kind of weird. I've never had right wrist pain or any wrist pain, so didn't think anything of it. And I get to Quail and had to withdraw. I like fly up there, hit some balls for like 5 minutes. I'm like, nope, can't do this. And then, because I wanted to play the Players Championship, I've never played. And I remember being at Players, and I was on like any type of pain like relief, and every single like ice water bath of like, or cooler that was out on the golf course, I would just stick my hand in there, and then I would put my glove on and then hit it. Like anything just to like give me any relief. And I was feeling great. I guess I had enough Advil that morning, because on Thursday at Players, I was leading after 8 holes, and then I got to 18, and I think I was leading after 8, and then I think I shot like 75. It was like the wheels came off with everything. Just, I was in a great place, and then I wasn't. But yeah, that wrist kind of led into some swing deficiencies I eventually would have.
The combination of the wrist, and was there anything that really hurt you psychologically from the Sunday at Augusta that hung around for? No, not at all.
I felt like anyone would say, I considered it a good learning experience. I felt like if I got back to that position, that I would know how to handle myself, and like a couple things that I would have done differently, just from the time in between shots. That was the only thing that I learned from that experience was sometimes, that time in between shots, you just got to let your mind go. And I think I was like just a little bit too, watching Jordan and kind of just instead just kind of be in my own space. Cause as soon as you're watching him and he does the things that he did that day
Yeah.
with his putter, it's hard I just didn't do a good job of resetting that day for my putt. And cause everybody's moving, and that was the only takeaway from what I would have done differently. But yeah, the wrists and all it, I don't think it was that big of a too big of a deal though.
The next season, you finished tied for fifth. You mentioned Wells Fargo. The next season, you finished tied for fifth there. Finished 12th at the Players, and then in the fall of 2017, you finished fourth at Sanderson Farms. And then after that, something just happened. What happened?
Well, that fourth at Sanderson Farms was I always laugh about that because like that I had no business finishing fourth at Sanderson Farms that year. I hit it in the first fairway on the 18th hole, which is like 80 yards right off the tee, and made birdie on Sunday. Like, and I wasn't trying to go over there either. But the whole week I was just like everywhere, and I would iron it good and putted well. So like it's a funny top five that week. But what happened? I mean, it was a combination of two things: just trying to change my golf swing to help my injuries, and then having to think too much over the golf ball. And that was basically I just kind of lost that creativity that had made me so confident and aggressive over the years to be able to attack golf courses. My game just didn't travel as well. I didn't have as many shots. And, I'm still, trying to kind of find that type of golf again. I'm not practicing as much because I'm doing the media more because I'm enjoying it.
Yep.
But I used to be able to hit kind of every window with my iron. And I drove it down a string, hitting it pretty far. And I think that's kind of what I miss is just that creativity and just having to think too much over it.
I'll never forget seeing you at Oakmont in 2016, and obviously this was after Augusta. But one thing that I was always struck by with you is there was this. It's like you're a live wire, and I remember we were walking down the 15th hole, the 15th fairway, and you had a bounce to you that was, it was like, wow, this guy is like so alive. When you started to play poorly, did that leave you?
Yeah. The cameras weren't on me at that point. I wasn't, around media as much. I tried to keep good attitudes, but I would be so frustrated with the game. And I was always a very fiery player. Like, if you watch me out on the golf course, like practice rounds and stuff, like great mood. But I was definitely more of an intense golfer and like very hard on myself, and I just wanted to be the very best that I could possibly be every single day. And sometimes I was way too hard on myself on the golf course, off the golf course, constantly just wanting to improve and think about it. And as a competitor, that drove me to want to get back to where I was. And sometimes what I've learned now looking back is I should have just taken time off and simplified the game and just played golf, gone and just fall in love with the game again. I think I lost sight of the game of golf and trying to be too perfect. And I think that is probably one of the main things I wish, looking back during times of struggle, just not been so tough on myself and just kind of gone and just played golf, late 9 holes at home and just kind of try to find those shots that kind of get you back going for the next day.
Yeah.
But I think that was one of the main things that left me.
You mentioned girlfriend, now wife, Francie. Did you start sharing with her like doubt? Did you start like talking to her about like I don't know what's going on here? Like, did you guys have conversations about the things that you were dealing with?
I think as a professional golfer, we try to make ourselves so tough that we make it to where we're so indefensible. And I think I wish I would have been able to open up more during that time. I just never wanted to put any doubt out for myself out in the air. So like, but as the older I've gotten, the more I've opened up to her about everything. But at the time it was all just, just trying to stay super confident in myself and not act like anything is wrong. Cause I didn't think anything was wrong. It was just trying to figure out how I can get back to playing a week off. And, yeah, it's funny what happens when you just get a little older and a little bit more mature and realize that talking things out is probably more efficient than kind of cramming it all in.
Smylie, we had talked about social media a little bit earlier. Social media is downright cruel at times, and it's unhealthy for a lot of people to consume. I think too much of it any day, whatever it is that you're consuming. Did you find yourself taking in these things that these harpoons that people were launching at you, and was it debilitating you?
Yeah, it was tough, man. I've never, growing up, like I was a good basketball player, good golfer, and you play like away games at a basketball game, and somebody might yell something at you, and you'd be able to kind of go prove them wrong. Well, at the time when all this is going down and I'm playing bad, and it's all like just these accounts that are just firing at me just for playing bad, it's hard to fire back because all you can really do is just go try to prove them wrong. And I just wasn't in a position to prove anybody wrong because I wasn't playing good enough. So I think I was putting extra pressure on myself, and there would be times I'd be out on the course, just, got over par early, and I'm just like, I wonder what everybody's thinking. And there was just too much of that social media world had blended in to just my everyday life, the bad side. Like there was no good side of social media at the time. It just was, I just felt like all of it was a negative. And that's the shame about social media is that people can say whatever they want. There's a kid making a living. There was a kid making a living off of me, just off of my bad play, and just being able to post things about me. It's like, well, I would rather be in the shoes that I am, because like I was raised to, if you're gonna say something, say it to their face. So there was times that it was super frustrating for me, and I had to put it away. I just had to put social media down. I was off it probably for, I would have a post here and there, but it was probably 2 years, that I spent time away from social media just because it was such a dark place for me. There was nothing good. Any comment I read was always tagged in. It was just never like something that you wouldn't be tagged in. So I needed to get off. And Jordan did a good job of that. He hasn't been on social media probably for, I know his
long time.
I know he's tweeting and all that, or Instagramming, but he hadn't been on for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And it's impressive that he just said, I don't need to read that. And I think that's what I needed at the time, was like, I don't need it either. But I think some of us that like social media, we don't really want to be off of it. Like, I think it's there can be good to be out of social media. And I think, I still tried to make it work, but it got to a breaking point where I can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah. I remember whether it was, Jordan first, Rory disengaged. It seems like Justin still like that's him. Like there's an authentic participation from him. You tell me otherwise. It's not like he's on there all the time, but like he'll jump on, he'll make a comment, he may respond to, a handful of people, and he's managed for it to not be, this cesspool, which it can immediately become. And I have contended for years. And remember asking Nicholas and Player and these other guys at the Masters, the impact of social media on performance. Like, it's a real thing. You just said it. Like guys, you hit a shot and you're thinking, well, what are people saying? And having covered all sports for a pretty long time, like I remember thinking, like for a college kid to make a catch in a big game, and I can't imagine what it would be like for him to walk into a class on a Monday morning if he caught a pass for LSU. And it's like, that's the essence of being a college athlete. But now it's like he doesn't have to wait till Monday. All he has to do is look at his feed. And
Yeah.
but instead of that, put the intersection of that moment and him dropping the pass. And he is vilified, he's barbecued, he is harpooned by all these people who have inserted themselves into his life. And I think the impact on performance by social media is something that we're going to study till the end of time now, because it's a real thing.
Absolutely. And from my experiences, there's can be so much good from it. You can build your brand behind
Yep.
it. You can kind of create your story the way you want it to be told and see what people would like to see. You're able to kind of share that with your fans and your audience. And I think there can be so much great from it. But like you said, it kind of, this is when, like, I guess maybe DraftKings maybe kind of started, or like the lineups. And so like it all started kind of right around that time, because like after every round you kind of got it, if you didn't play as good, you got a tweet from like people that had you on your team. It's like, man, you suck. Like, I'm like, why'd you pick me? I don't know, like, sorry. And so that it's kind of that same time as when that started. But as if you're playing good and you're confident in yourself, I just wasn't quite both of those. I just wasn't quite playing as good as I could, and I just wasn't quite as confident in myself. And I think you're able to like not be quite as strong when you're just not quite playing as good. I just wasn't as strong as I needed to be.
I was talking to Casey Martin last week, and look, he's had a fascinating and challenging journey himself in his life, but he was sharing with me, it was like 3 years ago that he went through this exercise where he said, I'm not going to hit the ball until I have no thought. And I'm like, I don't know how that's achievable. I swear to God, I don't know how you did it. And he goes, well, I did it. And he said, the first time I did it, I shot 63. And he said, I had a 5-week period where I never shot an over par round. And he goes, it wasn't like it was competitive golf, but still, he said, I did it. And my question would be to you is, did you have so much thought that you were almost paralyzed by the abundance of thought before you took the club back?
Well, just, I went to a lot of really good golf coaches.
I bet.
And there wasn't one that I would say screwed me up or gave me bad advice. I think every single one of them had their best interests to try to help me become what I wanted to be. And I think that for me, it was just I just never, I was hoping that the next person I went to would be the magical stuff to where I didn't have to think about it anymore. And it just seemed like I never was able to turn my brain off. And now looking back, I wish I would have done so much more less, kept it simple, stayed with whether it be one coach or maybe another coach, and just tried to have a better game plan. I think that was just bounce around too much. It's just not good for golfers. And I learned that the hard way, but I think this reset to where I've been able to do media and just play golf for fun lately and just not be worried about playing professionally at the time. It's like I'm able to kind of fall in love with the game again. I'm just not thinking about it over the ball. I'm just hitting shots. And even if I hit a bad shot, it's not like the end of the world, It's just like I think it's just nice to not be so into every shot to where it's life or death.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with some buddies I was on a golf trip with 2 weeks ago, and we were like, what's a swing thought and what isn't? And this one guy said, well, is visualizing what you want to do in the air, is that a swing thought? And I said, I don't think it's a swing thought. I don't think it is. Do you think that is a swing thought?
I think the biggest thing that I've lost is that visualization pre-shot, just being able to see the window and trust it going into the ball. Like that's the biggest thing I've missed, is just that moment in between and right before a shot, just visualizing that shot, what window it's coming out of, and just being able to kind of just picture it and then execute. Because like that's the most important thing I used to do in practice, was be able to go on the range, say I'm gonna hit a 9-iron to a back left pin. I would stick a stick in the back left corner of our practice green and set up like it's a tournament, 155 yards. I would pick my, where it's going to start, where it's going to finish, hit a draw, can't finish left. And I would practice those situations to the different parts of the green, and to where when I got on the golf course, it was just really, I've already done this. And when I really started to struggle is when I would go do that type of practice, the random type of practice with different type of pin locations. I wasn't able to execute on the range. And I think that's when I started spiraling a little bit downhill, because I just spent so much more time on the range. It's like, well, if I can't do it here, how am I going to do it out there on Sunday? And I think that's when I just really just started over practicing, trying to make everything perfect. And sometimes as a golfer, we have to be okay with what we have. And I think I'm just such a perfectionist that I wasn't okay with not being great. And that was kind of, for me, what led me to kind of different paths. And I wish I would have done it differently, but that's just the way I was wired at the time.
Smylie, I worked in a building for 10 years at Golf Channel where I was around people who played at the level that you played at. And a lot of them had a great deal of success, but I felt like a handful of them, like as much as the game had given them, like the game had taken something from them. And you know how golf is inherently. When you ask somebody how they play, they're like, yeah, I'm pretty well, but they always start with what could have happened. And I think golfers inherently talk about what could have happened. And I think that happens. And I really think that there's a huge documentary series that can be written on like how golf broke people, like Hall of Fame players too, like how the game has broken them. And I've asked guys, like, if I told you, tell me 5 guys that the game broke, could you come up with 5? Like, oh God, easily. And these are guys like who were good and won a lot. Has the game taken something from you?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, it's given me so much, and I was able to experience the highs and highs of it that nobody can ever take that away from me. Nobody can tell me that I can't play at an elite level, the highest level in golf. I've done it.
Yep.
So I've already proven that to myself that I was one of the better golfers in the world at one point. And to me, that's all I needed. Now, would I have liked to have done that for 20 years? Absolutely. But I've gotten to experience life so much different than other people. I've gotten to see the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and then kind of figure out who you are as a person as you kind of progress through, your 20s. And for me, that was what I needed. I didn't realize it at the time. When you come out, firing on all cylinders, you kind of, I was able to get back home and really settle into who I am as a person. I think that, and having a wife kind of be my backbone through those years, you really find out, who you are. And I think that is kind of what I needed. And I've been able to kind of reset ever since. And I just feel so much more comfortable with how I am now. As when I look back when I was playing really well, it's like just, I was a real cocky kid at the time in my head. And I don't think I treated anybody any differently. I just think the perspective that I have now versus then is just totally different.
When you decided to embark on doing some media, your agent Jimmy Johnston had and there's a wonderful piece that was done around the PGA Championship by The Athletic about you kind of re-engaging and doing it by way of doing the media. But initially you were offered the opportunity to do the antiseptic in the studio PGA Tour live kind of thing, and you balked at that, like, nah, I don't think so. But you chose to do the on-course thing for the PGA Championship at Southern Hills. But before you did that, did you have any trepidation? Like, if I do this, is this resignation in any way? Did you feel that at all?
Um, a little bit. As a golfer, you still think you got it, and it like as a somebody who's won, they send you a PGA Tour card every single year. It's not like the NBA or the NFL where they tell you, hey, you can't play anymore.
Right.
You can go play. Like you can go try to do Mondays and do this. And for me, I just hit mine earlier this year. That's when I've been way more open with my wife and just about how things are going. What are we going to do moving forward? Because obviously you can't do this sustainably for long term, being able to chase this dream.
Yeah.
And or reignite the fire. And so for me, I just was very candid with her and very candid with Jimmy about, hey, if there's anything that comes up, I don't know if media is for me, but I would like to try to see if it is for me. And I think at the PGA, I think you develop so much type of like, when you've struggled so much and you feel like I was always looking over my shoulder when I got to a golf tournament for whatever reason. I think that's just anxiety that is built over the years of just kind of struggling. I just always had this kind of like monkey on my back that I just couldn't quite scratch. And it was funny when I got to the PGA, it was just like, it was totally lifted. And I was like, I just kind of felt so comfortable with myself and just felt like there's nobody, right around the corner. It just felt like this is what I was here to do that week. And I think it was good for me.
One of the guys you worked with is a good friend of mine, Dave Feldman. And I talked to Dave. Not only I talked
good
to
see you, man.
I talked to him last night. And because I told him that I was going to be talking with you this morning, but I also talked to him that week because he was, first of all, just, what I could share about Southern Hills because I had spent some time there. And then, he was asking me about you, and I said, well, he's a very energetic guy. Obviously, this is new for him. But then last night, I wanted to talk to him about the experience of working with you. And Smylie, I have this, and it's just my own theory. I think that people who try television, it's not that they can't get better at it, because you can. If you're determined, you can probably get better at most everything, but you either can or you can't. And you can do this. And Dave said he could do it. Like he did it. Like right away, he did it. He has this like savant-like ability to talk like himself and give you a thought in 12 seconds. And I know what that 12 seconds is like. Now, I'm not done on-course reporting, but I know what it's like to be told, hey, get in there. And then you also have not only the guy tossing it to you, but you have somebody in your ear counting you down, and you get in, you get out, and you're trying to say something that actually makes some damn sense. You did that. And I just wonder, the first time they threw it to you and you have this, this moment of holy shit, this is on, right now. When it was over after the first time, did you go, oh my God, I didn't die? I mean, what was it like?
Well, so just the differences in the broadcasts that I have done. So I worked for ESPN with the PGA,
Yep.
Worked for NBC Peacock for the U.S. Open, obviously just to finish up the U.S. Junior, and worked for Golf Channel, NBC. And so with ESPN, we came on 30 minutes before tee off. So we're filling time, and they would send it down to me, and they just wanted to me talk for a minute or two about the conditions that day. And I just remember thinking that night, I'm going full weatherman tomorrow. I have to be weatherman for a full minute and a half. I've never been the weatherman. I can tell you my yardage book, it's coming out of the north. And I think we rehearsed it probably 2 or 3 times the day before. And when I tell you I didn't even come close to saying the same thing twice. It was just just random, but every time it came out okay, and it was all right, I guess I'll just see what comes out tomorrow. And when we finally got onto the golf course, I was like, all right, here we go. I got Zalatoris, Hovland, and shoot, I can't remember the last one, but we get Willie Z hits it down there, and he hits this most unbelievable shot that totally was all I was so off on the call because he hit this unreal shot that I didn't think he could get close, and he hits it to 5 feet. I'm like, good start. and I was like that, but I think Willie Z is just that good. And I think that credit to him, maybe look bad on my first call, but the thing with TV too is I didn't realize that you can have, like, these guys have issues with their headsets, their equipment. The first 3 holes, I can't hear anything, like static. And I'm like, this is awful. Like, I'm like on talk back to the producer. I'm like, can't hear anything. Like, tell them not to talk to me. And so we finally get through 3 holes. They send out one of those BSI guys or whatever they're called. And they get it fixed. And from there, working with Dave and Mark Wilson that entire week was great, because I feel like every day I understood the flow a little bit more. And I talked to Mark Wilson after one of the rounds. He kind of gave me some just advice on when he passes me the ball to, like, talk, just how to kind of pass it back or keep it when I needed to. And so along the way, I've gotten great advice from so many people. And Dave was so fun to talk to, because he's like, his voice is so fun to listen to, just talking to. Like, he just is so entertaining to me. And he just sounds like a guy that is always working on his handicap in golf.
Oh my God, you nailed it.
Like
you nailed it.
And that's, like, it was easy to be able to talk to him about certain things. And just kind of poke fun at him at a time, just knowing that he couldn't hit that shot. It's like, Dave, that one, I know you would have struggled with that one.
He was mentioning an anecdote where Patton Kizzire was running hot, and you made a comment like I played junior golf with him. I know when he's redlining, and lo and behold, he had one of those moments, and he he tomahawked a wedge or something, like 3 holes later, like, I don't know, 100 yards or something. It was an all-timer, and he's like, he nailed it. And it's one thing to have a familiarity with the players. It's another thing to kind of sense that, yeah, I can tell that he's redlining. Did those things, did they provide reassurance to you? Were there things that happened that week that were reaffirming to you that, I'm kind of getting this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just certain things you notice of players when you watch them for 18 holes that I was able to pick up on quickly. And I think for me, it was surprising how easy I felt it was, like, just to be able to talk about golf. It was like, all right, this is so simple to talk about. There is a huge learning curve as far as to be able to do that job at a very high level.
Yep.
But I already kind of passed all of the tests of being able to talk about it, because I've done it and I know what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to sound, and where that ball is supposed to land, where it's supposed to fly. So all those things are super easy for me to talk about, but to be able to do it, like you said, in 12 seconds or 6 seconds, sometimes 2 seconds.
Yep.
And be yourself along the way and entertain the viewer. It's tricky at times. Sometimes it's overwhelming you have to be that quick. But I told my wife after that week, after every day, everybody would go meet in the lobby. Everybody would go eat, have a glass of wine.
Yep.
And we would talk about our rounds like it was junior golf. And I'm like, this was so fun. I had such a great time meeting so many different people in that business, and learn from so many of them. But it's like junior golf, when we used to finish rounds and we would just go talk about our bogeys. And it's like, this guy made the dumbest decision on the 6th hole today. I don't know what he was thinking. And it was so fun as a player to be able to just chop it up with everybody.
When you got to Brookline, did you feel like you had already made a leap? Because repetition, the only way to do it is to do it more. Did you feel like you had made a leap when you got there?
I really did. I felt like, I think Brookline too was important for me because I got to work with so many different people. Like, I worked with Dave and Mark at ESPN at Southern Hills, and Brookline, I think I worked with like a total of like 15 different hosts and analysts.
Yeah.
which I thought was important to me because I got everybody's different cadences, how they got in and out of breaks. So now I went from working with somebody for 6 rounds to working with somebody different every round. So now like that was just it couldn't have worked out better. But I felt like Brookline, like you said, was when I showed up, I felt confident that I was able to do it. It wasn't quite as difficult. So yeah, I would say it was pretty good. It was a good week.
The junior, which I watched a fair amount of, uh, and first of all, Bandon is an American treasure, and I'm so glad that that exists in our country. Had you been there before?
That was first time.
Did it blow your mind?
It it was really cool. We went and played Sheep Ranch. Burko,
Yeah.
Noda, and our producer Jeff went out and played Sheep Ranch, and it was fantastic. Like some of the pictures I took, I was like, this isn't America. This is like Scotland, Ireland. Like it was just so cool.
I went out there for the solstice event and played. Well, this before Sheep Ranch was open. Played all four in 1 day walking. Uh,
Stop it.
yeah, and made the idiotic decision to have a bunch of guys. Feldman was on this trip,
Oh
and
god.
so we played 72 walking. So it was 28 miles, and then I had a bunch of guys, including Dave, come in, played 36 the next day and 36 the next day. Um, but again, the place is awesome. But let me ask you about this part of being there that week. The junior golfer, was there like a lightness and an absence of fear or thought that seemed palpable for you among these players? Like they're not cynical about the business. They're not worried about where they're going next. They don't have, obligations with sponsors yet. They all want that. I get it. But was there something about being there that week that might have been therapeutic for you?
Um, Not really.
Okay.
We only got to watch him play semis and the finals, and at that point, these guys are really they're the cream of the crop
Yeah.
of that group. Um, I just enjoyed the difference in the call. It's when you're talking. When I've worked at the majors, we're talking about the best players in the world. So my expectations of what they should do is very high, and I know kind of when they don't have their stuff, and you can kind of see it, you kind of comment about it. But the US Junior, it's more about when it's match play, you're talking more about situations. You're talking
Yeah.
about when you do things really well, highlight this is tour level good. And there were kids that were playing that did things at a tour level good. Kid Caleb Surratt. I mean, he'll be a freshman next year at Tennessee, and he's leading that elite amateur series as a high school kid. This is, that series was designed for college kids that are amateur golfers, and he's leading it by like a touchdown. And he's good enough already to make cuts on the PGA Tour. He hits it long enough, and so that was fun to be able to follow a kid that's going to be that good. So that was for me being able to follow a future star. I believe in the game is to see him at such a young age and how raw they are as a not as just a golfer, but just as like a person. They're just still trying to find their voice in an interview, but how confident they are in their games, and that I was the same way. So it just is cool to kind of see them at that phase in their life.
Yeah, no question. You're gonna do the U.S. Amateur at Ridgewood. I'll look forward to seeing you there because I grew up there, and you'll love that. And then I know that you're also gonna do the Vegas event, which you won. Do you think this is what you want to do? Do you think this is your path?
Well, I think my path. It's a great question because my path right now is ever changing. And if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year, hey, you're going to do TV the rest of the year, I'd be like, really? I didn't think that was going to happen. But I hearing from like you saying you either can or can't do it, and I've had more guys that I trust. Sansi,
Yeah.
like he kind of sought me out, and we had time to sit together at Brookline. He's like, dude, you can do this. I'm like, okay, because like as a, I've never done it before, and I don't know how it sounds to their ears, but they seem to think I can do it, and I feel comfortable doing it. I enjoy doing it. Is it my path forever? I don't know, but right now it seems to be what I enjoy doing, and we'll see. I think right now it seems to be kind of the way I'm heading, but I think it's all ever changing.
How does Francie feel about that? I mean, how does your family, which I know has been very important to you throughout your life, I mean, do you get feedback from them? Are they excited about the fact that you're doing something you never thought you'd be doing at the age of 30, and you like it?
Yeah, I think Francie, she's going to support me in everything she does, and same with me with her. Um, you know, I think you know for me just to be able to kind of sink my teeth into something and kind of get back into that competitive working hard at something and improving. For so long I worked, and that's the frustrating thing about golf is that you can work harder than anybody and get worse. And I used to work harder than everybody is what I felt like, and would continue to get better. And that for me, it that was the most frustrating thing about golf for that time period is I would spend so much time at the golf course trying to get better, and I'd leave and I would say, did I get better today? And I'd be like, I don't know. Maybe I got better, maybe I didn't. And I think with this new career opportunity, I'm able to kind of reset and be able to, leave tournaments thinking, all right, I just got a little better at this week and learn this from Noda this week. And that's like, I write it down. It's like, I got a bunch of notes that kind of make it to where you can get a little better at this. And Justin Leonard told me at Brookline, he's like, it's a steep learning curve, but it can be great if you continue to work at it. And it's kind of hard to work at something you only get 6 seconds to work on, but there's been greats that have done it, and they have their own kind of cadence, and people love to listen to them. So it's just kind of finding that and just keeping improving on it. But my family's always been supportive of everything I've done, though.
Justin, the first television he did, it was with me. It was the 2014 Ryder Cup. We were doing like this alternate thing where we were watching. It was me, Lanny Watkins, Faherty, and Justin, and it was almost like having a mega cast. It was a great concept, and I remember thinking to myself, like, what, he can do this, and it was the first time, and I'm like, he can do this, and he wound up doing it, and you combine the ability to do it with the willingness to get better, and that's when you become really good at it. Which I hope that you do that. Let me get you out of here with these 5 quick questions.
Yeah.
The best night you don't remember.
Ooh. Best night I don't remember. Man, my mind immediately went to Baker's Bay. I'm gonna probably have to go with one of those nights down there.
I'll imagine. Would you guys? And now that everybody, look, Justin's getting married, Jordan's got a kid, Ricky's got a kid. Yeah, will you guys like do that when you're like 40, and like go to bed at like 8:30?
Yeah, I probably so. And Francie and I are expecting a baby in January.
Oh, so fabulous!
So we're on that, I guess, the retirement tour when it comes to Baker's. We'll be in bed by 9:00 like everybody else, and we'll be at 7 a.m. Brunch though, or breakfast.
Exactly. All right, what is the best SEC road weekend? All things considered, all things.
Okay, like just a place to visit or the best game, just everything in it.
Everything.
I think I would give you 3 that I've experienced that I think that are elite. I think LSU is a night game is something you got to do. I think the tailgating experience, the night game is such a cool atmosphere. Yep. And I'm super biased, but I think that opinion won't be too far off with a lot of people. My wife went to Auburn. I've kind of, found a way to, it's kind of hard to find a way to like another team, but I think Auburn's such a cool town, and it's a sneaky, really tough atmosphere. It's very loud. I think it's very underrated as far as its fan noise, and I think the campus is really good. And I think it's just a really good school. I'll probably go with. I can't ever get Alabama credit for anything.
And you grew up, I mean, you grew up in this, like Vestavia Hills for
Yeah,
people. I mean, Mountain Brook, and I went to Vandy, so I know all the guys that came from your neck of the woods. For you to have, did you not have any affinity for the University of Alabama growing up?
now my mom and dad both played golf at LSU, so I was kind of raised an LSU fan. My dad didn't allow it, so he kind of raised me to hate Alabama. We used to, you know, leave those games right before the end, and he would just, walk as fast as he could to the car. And so I'm just used to walking as fast as I can to the car out of an away game, whether it be at Alabama or somewhere else. So, and he just doesn't like any other of those teams. So, but I mean, I'm a pretty casual fan now, like as far as like whether I like a team or not. But I would say that third team though would probably either be Ole Miss or Alabama as far as the
Yeah,
atmosphere.
Ole Miss is very good. Ole Miss is that whole thing.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. The thing about the thing about going to Vandy is that it was such a good weekend for. First of all, there'd be 20,000 visiting fans. You got every
Yeah.
team that came into Nashville always covered. It was never a question of whether the game was going to be won or not, and you were going to the best city in the league. Like all these other, they're great little bedroom college communities, but Nashville's like a happening city. So,
Right.
so it was funny when the state troopers from Alabama or Louisiana or Florida or Georgia came rolling into downtown Nashville. I mean, I loved it. I knew we were going to get our doors blown off, but I also knew there were going to be 20,000 people wearing gold or red or orange. It was a great road trip because again, there was no stress. The game was just a 3-hour interlude between going downtown or going to the Grand Ole Opry or getting, drinking and eating good food.
Well, in 2019, LSU played at Vandy, and this is our year we had that magical year where we won with Joe Burrow.
Yep.
I think the whole stadium was pretty much LSU.
Oh, of course.
And there was a tweet that came out at halftime, and it said that they had ran out of alcohol in the stadium, and that LSU fans had drinking the stadium dry before the end of the first half, and they were all out. So at the like you could see people. I mean, we were kicking their butt, but at the end of the third quarter, they're heading to Broadway. You could tell like this stinks. I got no more beer.
All right, who's the funniest person you know?
Probably one of my do you want a golf answer?
No. Somebody in your life who's the funniest person you know.
Probably one of my buddies, Andrew Visiglio here in town. He's a guy that works at the Piggly Wiggly here in town. He's probably the wittiest guy I know, and he would probably be him. He'll laugh when I say that. He made it on a show.
Is he a manager at the Piggly Wiggly? What does he do there?
Yeah, his family runs the Piggly Wigglies here in town, and it's not like those hodunk Piggly Wigglies that like they're in the middle of Alabama. It's a legit.
It's like the Taj
We got
Piggly Wiggly.
We got some awesome stores here. But he's hilarious. He's a mess. He's good. He knows Jordan and JT well as well. And you ask them about him, he's just like he's a nut.
All right. What's the most embarrassing moment you've ever had in your life?
I would probably say this was so embarrassing. It definitely would have been in New Orleans at the Zurich one year, and like whatever I ate the night before didn't sit well. I'm teeing off with David Toms and Charlie Hoffman on the 12th hole. We'd already played 2 holes. We teed off the back, and my stomach just totally dropped. And there was like a porta potty over there. I'm like, it's so hot, and like just do my business, come out, hit my tee ball, and then my caddy, as we're like walking off the tees, like, dude, you have toilet paper on your belt. And it was like hanging off of my like leg, and Charlie and David didn't say anything. And like we have a group, like a pretty decent crowd playing with David,
sure,
in New Orleans, and I got toilet paper hanging off my leg, and I just remember thinking, I was like, man, this stinks. And like, this is awful. Like, it was so embarrassing. But then my buddies, and I'm in my early to, mid 20s, and I show up out there in the fairway, and I see my buddies, they didn't sleep that night. They just gotten back from New Orleans, from partying all night. And I see their eyes, and I'm like, I could be them right now. And I was like, I'm all good. It was like a nice, like, the most humbling experience into like, okay, you're fine. Like, they're going to be way worse off today than I am.
All right, last thing, pound for pound, the player who gets the most out of his game you've ever seen in your professional career.
Oh, God. Peter Malnati. Like, what he, like, and I haven't played with him in a long time, and it seems like to me, when I watch him on TV now, it looks like he compresses it a little bit more, but like, he used to not compress it as much. And he would get around and he'd shoot 66. And I'm like, God, he just does it such a different way.
Yeah.
Like, it's just totally opposite of the way everybody else plays. He's got, more graphite shafts, and like, but he just hits it right at the hole. And I'm like, God, because it just doesn't make that sound you're used to.
Yeah.
He's so good around the greens, and he beats you in different ways that other guys don't. It's probably the answer you didn't expect, but probably Peter.
No, that's a good answer. I mean, again, guys.
He's still on tour, man.
Exactly.
He shot like every year. I'm like, he's
got a job.
Better and better at his craft, man. Like, it's impressive.
No question about it. Hey, listen.
He's doing a lot with less, man.
Yep, for sure. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm very happy that you're lending your voice. I'm happy you're finding joy and fun in doing it. I'll look forward to seeing you at Ridgewood. I really will.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. It was a good conversation, and anytime you want me to come on, I'm happy to divvy it up.
Thank you, my buddy. Really appreciate it. Well, really appreciate Smylie Kaufman taking the time. One thing I said it to him, and I always thought was, it's great to have great energy, which he had, but there was a positivity about him when he was playing well, that was palpable. And I think in time, the more he does television, I think he's going to be able to exude that. But I appreciate his willingness to talk about the downtime, the abyss that he looked into, and what he's found maybe on the other end is a different type of career in the game of golf. But most importantly, thank you for listening and watching to this Five Clubs conversation. We'll see you next time.